Hey guys, Pupsker here, and today we're talking about, is a Gladiator a good class to start off with in Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn? So as you may know, it's an MMO, so it has three main types of classes. You have DPS, you have healers, and you have tanks. Gladiator is a melee tank. It's not really surprising, all tanks are usually melee, because having a ranged tank wouldn't really make too much sense if you think about it. So he's a melee tank with a shield and a sword. Yeah, what a shock. Now, is he a good class for new players to start off as? Probably. Most classes in Final Fantasy XIV are decent classes to start off with, but here's why I think Gladiator is probably a pretty good class. So as you know, he is a tank. And in games like Final Fantasy, being a tank generally gives you priority in a lot of queues at a lower level, because you have less players playing tanks, so it's generally a good idea if you want to level up a little faster, you can queue into dungeons a little faster, and really it just helps out. So it's good for lower level players because you can definitely queue into dungeons just a little bit faster. Now, if you don't mind waiting a little longer, that's perfectly fine. I don't think queue times even in Final Fantasy XIV are even that long if you're playing a DPS. So either way, you shouldn't have too much of an issues, but generally with tanks it'll be a lot faster. Another point is, since they are tanks, generally they're pretty hard to kill even if you have shit gear. Now, I myself can think that being a new player in an MMO, a lot of times you're not really going to have any good gear, even for your level. You're going to give whatever the game gives you. You're going to take whatever the game gives you. So if you get some slightly better gear, obviously you're just going to equip it, no matter what. Like, oh, that gives me some more tankiness? Yeah, I'm going to equip that. Oh, it gives me a little bit more damage? Yeah, obviously I'll take that. You don't really have funding to buy yourself good gear from the auction house, or whatever it's called. So really, it's a good place to be a tank. You're tanky, it's hard to kill you. You don't really need the gear to stay alive because, well, your class is kind of made to stay alive. That's their whole purpose. They don't die, they're tanky, and they take aggro. And being a tank in Final Fantasy, you might think, oh, low level, damage must be really bad. No, it's actually perfectly fine. So Final Fantasy does this thing where it gives you a lot of attacks that you'd use more often in solo, and a lot of attacks that you used more often in group play. Gladiator, for example, they have an area of attack that increases aggro on enemies, and does no damage. You never really use that if you're playing solo. Sometimes I do, just because it also blinds them, which is pretty cool. But it's not really a useful attack to use when solo. But on the other hand, you have two melee attacks. You have a combo melee attack that does more damage, but it doesn't increase any aggro. That is a lot more likely I'm going to use when I'm playing solo. You also have two stuns at level 20, and honestly, it's pretty good. So far, I'm only level 20 Gladiator, so that's why I can really only speak from up to level 20 or 21. You know, I'm around that level. So that's what I'm saying. It's really good for a new class. More seasoned players can play a lot of the more advanced classes that unlock later, past like level 50 and such, but just for new players, I do think Gladiator's a pretty good starting point. You do start in the city of Ul'dah since you are a Gladiator, and I think it's a pretty well set up city as well, which is another little bonus that is there for you. It's a circular type city with a lot of places. It's just one of the main cities. I think there's three main cities technically. I could be wrong, I'm not really a huge seasoned veteran of the game, so I might get facts wrong. But it is a pretty good main city. It has a lot of resources that you can actually take from, and I think it's very noob friendly. A lot of times the issues with a lot of MMOs is they're not really that noob friendly. Like, neither is Final Fantasy XIV, to be fair, but it's very good about giving you information with the pop-ups. That being said, it's still an MMO. There's a lot of information to absorb, a lot to learn from, and really it's going to take you some time. And I think just playing a tank first off will make that a little bit easier. You don't really have to worry about gear. You just have to play. You do good enough damage, your survivability is good enough, you could have 0 gold and you'll be fine. You don't really need potions, at least in my experience. Obviously later on, yeah, you might want to get potions, but for now you don't need anything. Just play the game and you'll be fine. Luckily, Final Fantasy set up, so that's more or less the case for most classes, but I just think playing a tank makes it that much easier. Plus, it gives you time to really learn all of the kinks, a lot of the fighting, and you can quickly realize that enemies that have area attacks, you really do want to avoid those, whether you're a tank or a DPS. A lot of enemies, even if you're a tank, they'll one-shot you with the area attack abilities that they have, so you'll try to avoid those. And you'll quickly learn how the game works, and yeah. It's probably a good idea to play a tank if you like tanks, like lower queue times, and really don't want to spend money on gear, and just want to play the game chilling around. That being said, play whatever class you want. Honestly, they're all good. But I do think that playing a Gladiator is a pretty legitimate class to start off with. I at least started off with it, and I think it's going pretty well for me. So guys, if you like the video, make sure to favorite, like, subscribe, all that great stuff. Check out my links and stuff. If you want to really comment about anything you want to agree with, disagree with in this video, feel free to. I am new to Final Fantasy XIV, so I don't expect to have everything right off the bat. Again, I've only been playing it for like 5 to 10 hours probably, because I am only level around 20. So my knowledge on the game right now is pretty limited, but I do think it's a pretty good MMO, very much like World of Warcraft, because yeah, it's very comparable to that really. It's the most close MMO, and it's a beautiful game, so I can't wait to play more. Anyways guys, that's it for this video, and I'll see you next time.